The following episode will contain spoilers. You have been warned.
You're listening to Cinema IRL, the podcast that throws you into the movie and asks the question, what would you do? Today, Amber and Scott are about to dissect the smashing machine because, yes, sometimes the hero gets punched in the face first. And now, Cinema IRL.
I wish I could switch places for just one day.
What would you do?
Put yourself in my shoes.
How do we handle this?
What would you do?
Put yourself in my position.
What would you do?
Now it's your turn.
Yes, baby. Smashing.
Yeah? Smashing. Alrighty, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to today's episode on the Smashing Machine. And this is the most concise film description I've seen yet. The story of legendary mixed martial arts and UFC fighter Mark Kerr. So that gives us a lot to expand upon.
I like the one that we got through ChatGPT better.
Okay.
A biopic of MMA pioneer Mark the Smashing Machine Kerr. The film tracks his rapid rise through the brutal early days of UFC and Pride and how coping with physical pain drags him into addiction. Alongside his athletic exploits, the story digs into his volatile relationship with Dawn, the strain of fame, and the wreckage of being at the top.
Wreckage!
See, screw the AMC. Well, I mean, we like AMC, but screw their descriptions. I'm going to use the ChatGPT ones. That's better.
So we have our main character, Mark Kerr, and our story takes place between 1997 and the year 2000. And
In the year 2000.
yes, the year 2000.
In the year 2000.
Yes, 2000.
Anyone who doesn't get that joke, just go back like 30 years and check out Conan O'Brien.
And he's a fighter in the early days of UFC and the Pride event that took place in Japan, and back in the days where fighters took a licking and did not get paid very much, unlike today where they take a licking, but they also get paid millions and have merch and fans across the globe. And as Mark Kerr takes that licking, he has to take a lot of pain meds and ultimately gets addicted to opioids. He has a rocky relationship with his girlfriend, and he has a best friend that toward the end of the film he's supposed to fight, but they are solid. It's actually a really nice male to male friendship to follow because they have each other's backs in a really nice way. That's to see that relationship. And we see Mark be incredibly successful and then him also suffer the mental setback of his first loss and see how that story develops. So many what would you do is here.
When you're a professional athlete or on the road to being a truly professional athlete, here's the thing. You're not used to losing because if you've made it to the pros, that means that pretty much every step of the way, you've been one of the best around. So losing is not something you're totally used to. So it actually is an extremely foreign concept for someone that's as successful as he is to actually think about what a loss is.
Yeah, and we see that when he is being interviewed by someone in the Japanese media of like, how would you feel or what would it be like if you lost? And he's like, I can't imagine. I don't know what that would be like.
Not to mention that when you're in that position, you are very much eyes on the prize, and that prize is not an L.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually a question. You talk about what would you do if I was an athlete and someone were to ask me, how would you feel if you failed, or I would not go there. Mindset is everything when it comes to stuff like that, and I think you're actually being reckless with the mindset of the person you're interviewing when you ask them a question like that.
I would just say, I don't know, and luckily I won't have to find out.
Yeah. As a guy who also is a sports fan and loves a good competition and can certainly bring out that testosterone when you are feeling competitive, what would you do at any points in this film if you were Mark Kerr? I mean, start anywhere.
I mean, I've had the points in my life where I was highly competitive at things on an extremely high level, not quite best of the best type, but like very high level, and you do get very competitive, and the idea of losing is gut-wrenching. So you really take as many steps as you can to avoid that. And like the thing with competitive people, it's interesting because a lot of people think like if you're just competitive, you're just trying to beat everyone around you. And yes, that's definitely true. But I can tell you that the person in general that I'm most competitive with is myself. Like,
yeah, that's actually a really good way to be competitive, is because if you can best yourself and increase or lessen your time depending on what you're doing, if being in competition with yourself is actually a really healthy mindset to have.
Like the smashing machine that was in the lobby.
Do you want to explain that for our listeners?
It's one of the punching carnival type things where you punch it and it gives you a score based on how hard you punched it.
Yeah, it's a promotion for the film.
Yeah, and you could just do it over and over and over until you didn't want to anymore, or your wrist started hurting. I kind of got the latter. But listen, there were guys who were sitting there punching it up into like 880, 890 range and stuff like that. And I looked what they looked like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not going to be competitive with that. I'm a 49-year-old guy. This guy looks like he's 25 and jacked. I'm not. Being competitive, you have to be realistic sometimes with being competitive as well. Like what's your bracket? And for me, in that, like my bracket was me. How good could I do myself?
Yeah, no, that's great. And I think that is actually one of my favorite quotes is you look to others for inspiration of what's possible. You think of, oh gosh, his name's going to escape me at this moment. The guy who ran the 4-minute mile, and Roger, I want to say Fetterman, but that's not right.
That's right. We'll have the intern tell us who was the first guy to run a 4-minute mile.
But it wasn't possible until he did it. And as soon as he broke that record, then other people started breaking that record because they knew it was possible. And up till then, everyone thought, well, you no one can run a 4-minute mile.
I mean, you're really right on this. I see it a lot in the NFL, especially with kickers. So for the longest time, the NFL longest field goal record was 63 yards. I mean, and it was 63 yards for like a couple of decades, I think. And then someone came along in Denver and kicked a 64. And then I pretty much know it was September of 2021, because it was the weekend I went to Dallas for my mom's 70th birthday. Justin Tucker kicked a 66-yarder to win the game. And now, I mean, just in the last 2 years, like I watched a 65-yarder get kicked, I think, last Sunday. And in preseason, it doesn't count for the official record, but a guy kicked a 70-yard field goal, which was, I mean, considering 63 was where it was for decades, it's been pushed up. Like, you're thinking, okay, well, that's where the limit is.
Yeah, and when Roger Bannister broke that 4-minute mile back in 1954,
oh, you got time to look it
then,
up?
2,000 people have ran a 4-minute mile.
Yeah, it really is sometimes the question of what's truly capable. Like what can people do? And you don't know until someone really presses the limits, but there is that psychological part to it.
Yeah, and when you think about looking to others for possibility, but also looking to yourself for comparison. What was my best yesterday? What did I do last time? And really using yourself as your own benchmark for improvement. So I that's definitely a healthy way to look at mindset. Now, in regards to the mindset of Mark Kerr, he had a girlfriend who, wow, that girl could certainly be distracting to anyone's mental clarity and focus.
Yeah, I mean, she was at times his greatest supporter and at times his biggest detriment.
Yeah, what would you do if I were Mark Kerr's girlfriend in here, her name was Dawn, I would leave him some frickin' space before a fight, because you going in and introducing any sort of conflict when someone's trying to psych themselves out minutes before they go on to the stage and have the fight of their life, like, how much do you hate them? How self-involved do you have to be to introduce conflict when someone is trying to get ready for something like that?
I mean, okay, again, I used to be a pro-level Magic the Gathering player. I've played on multiple continents, and I've won quite a bit of money doing it over the years. And I can tell you that, and mind you, this is not anything close to what he went through, but if I was doing well in a tournament and like really kind of like in contention to be like making top 8 or something like that, people just kind of knew around me, just don't talk to me at all. Like I'm gonna finish my match and I'm gonna go into my own space and I'm gonna like completely, and it's not being rude, but you get in that mind space and that's where you're gonna live until you come out of this. And if you're somebody's partner, you have to respect that, because that is, regardless of whether it's mental, physical, anything that's competition on an extremely high level, like those people have to be able to concentrate, and you have to be able to give them the space to do that.
And this is where I'm going to chime in on, actually, what would you do if I was Dawn and also Mark
At the same time?
Either.
Are we
Either
discussing together again?
No. Yeah.
That would be an interesting one.
Yes, go back and listen to our episode on Together if you haven't listened to it yet, folks. But if I was Dawn or Mark, I would set some boundaries. And the fact is, yeah, Mark definitely did not need Dawn picking a fight and chattering in his ear, but he also never said, this is the film, who knows what happened in real life, but in the film, he never said, hey, Dawn, these are my expectations for fight nights. These are my expectations for my pre-fight psych up. Because even later in the film, when she overhears a voicemail about Mark not wanting her in Japan, Mark doesn't man up and say and own it that he didn't want that. Even when she said, you don't want me, he's like, no, you can come. But he clearly did not want her because he saw her as a distraction. So both of them need to do some work on boundaries. Mark to be, this is what I need from you leading up to fight nights. And Dawn saying, this is what I need as a person in a relationship and whatnot. They neither one of them communicated what their needs were very well.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also like, there are definitely lines you've got you should watch, but there's also, I don't know, being realistic. Like, for example, listen, he went to rehab, he came back. I wouldn't be downing a bunch of beers around him.
Well, she didn't. She went out.
I know, but I think it's perfectly reasonable if she needs to pop an Advil because she has a headache. Like, I don't think she's...
Yeah,
That was a little over the line on his part.
Yeah, I had that thought when she took 4 Advil, first of all, to cut off a headache she thought she was going to have. And she did it around him. And I was thinking about that as a what would you do in that moment. And fortunately, I cannot pull from real world experience to know what it's like to live with someone in the space of someone, share a life with someone who has an addiction that they're fighting, whether it be alcohol or drugs. And I honestly don't want to chime in on that because I don't have a good understanding of either party in that, either the one that's in the environment or the person battling it. Because on one hand, I want to say, I want to support you going through that, but I also shouldn't have to change my entire life to be with you. But on the other hand, if you're not making certain accommodations, are you supporting this partner that you supposedly love? And I don't have any personal knowledge. And I think anything I chime in on this will feel very ignorant because I'm sure there's so many layers to that for both parties.
There are. While I'm not as versed, I've seen it a little bit here. But I'm not even drawing from the perspective of the addict. I'm drawing from the perspective of being the other person. And again, like I said, So let's say that she used to take Advil and drink beers at home. It's perfectly reasonable for her to not drink the beers at home and for him to expect that, because that's really bad for people who have addiction and stuff like that. But it's not like she's shooting up opioids. She's taking freaking Advil for pain. And
that's it. You're saying that it's not the same, but in your example, it is the same.
Well, no, one is recreational and one is health.
Well, she's taking something for pain, and his issue was taking medication for pain. So there's more similarities there than I think you're acknowledging.
I've never once seen someone committed to a rehab facility because they took too many Advils.
Okay, but you know what I'm saying.
Well,
she's in pain and she's taking something, or preemptively taking something for when she will be in pain. And you have someone here who abused a drug because of pain. And again, these are nuances here that I hope I never fully understand.
They're not the same. They're just not. One is a recreational decision that you're choosing to make. The other one is health related, and again, it's not.
I don't think it was recreational. He was trying to do it so he could continue fighting.
No, I mean, drinking beers would be recreational.
Oh, when she went out with her friends.
Yeah, like when anyone drinking, you're not drinking because oh God, I have to drink or else this bad thing's gonna happen. Like
if you're in a Saw movie, that might happen.
I did actually know someone who died from sobering up too quickly, but that's because they used to be a horrible drunk. You can't quit alcohol. Like you can't be a real drunk and quit it cold turkey. Like it literally killed a guy I know.
Yeah, I mean that's the case with a lot of.
But that's the 0.001% on that. And if you're in that situation, you're not the other person. You're the one coming out of rehab. So,
another what would you do that was worth exploring in the film is Mark travels a lot. He's always traveling to different matches, and his girlfriend, out of the blue, when he's doing something in the yard, says, "You would be a good dad." And Mark immediately reacts negatively, feeling like she's pressuring him again to have kids.
We didn't see other scenes relating to that, but there's heavy implications that it's been said before.
Yeah, and she tried to frame it as, I was just being nice, that you have good characteristics and stuff. And I think you have to be pretty dense to not see that was not what it was about. It was about trying to reinforce the fact that she wanted to have kids.
Yes.
So what would you do?
And that's the thing. A lot of times people they'll just make a comment. I'm just making a comment. It's just something about, and it's not. You know what you're doing. You know that you're pushing buttons on that one. So.
Well, I think pushing buttons implies that she wants a negative outcome. She wants a positive outcome.
Not necessarily. I mean, pushing buttons can get you're trying for an outcome when you're pushing a button. Like maybe you're trying to convince him, but in this case, like if he's been this clear about it, then that's probably not likely to get you a positive outcome.
Okay, so what would you do if you were Mark Kerr in that situation?
Honestly, maybe say thank you or okay and move on. Literally,
yeah, that's probably a good response.
And just
thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and just move on. Like because here's the thing. Sometimes people want to try to engage you in a conversation without engaging you in the conversation by making you bring up the conversation, which is exactly what she did there. She didn't bring up the idea of having kids. She made him bring it up. So if you're going to be that person that's trying to engage in a conversation that you know the other person doesn't want to have, I'm going to make you bring it up. Like, I'm going to make you actually say the words to bring up that conversation. And the truth is, I mean, even in our personal relationship, I've seen examples of that from both of us. Of, like, one of us will say something knowing that they're trying to bring up a conversation, and then we'll both, like, shut it down and be like, no, if you're going to have this conversation, you're going to have to start it. So I think that's something that's just very common.
Well, and I think from a healthier relationship vantage point of that is just not thinking about it of you're going to have to make me bring it up, but just being like, just accept the compliment and let it die. It doesn't even necessarily have to be from the standpoint of, I'm going to make you bring this up.
Well,
it
it's
can
not
just
that
be
I'm
like,
going to make
thanks.
you. It's not that I'm going to make you bring it up. It's that if you want to bring this up, you're going to have to directly address it. Otherwise, I'm just going to take the compliment and move on. And mind you, that in of itself is a form of being passive aggressive, even if you're saying thanks, because you know what they're trying to say.
I don't know if I agree
You
with
are
that.
avoiding the conversation, but it's passive. It is an acceptable form of passive aggressiveness.
I think it's just passive. I don't think it has to be aggressive. Someone gave you a compliment, you accept it. If there was something more they wanted to say, then they can say that. But you accepting the compliment is passive. Doesn't have to be anything aggressive about that.
This is where things in relationships get to be very, very nuanced as to, I mean, everyone can say, I say what I mean and I mean what I say. And almost for sure, if you're the person who says that, you're a lying liar who lies. Like, almost for sure. And even if you don't say it, if you think it or mean it, you're probably lying or liar who lies. Like, nobody of any emotional maturity always says and does exactly what they mean. It just doesn't work. I mean, it's just not the way human beings are built. So, like, I could go on and on about that topic. I'm not going to.
So the other theme that ran through this film is caregiving and the emotional labor of supporting someone. And Dawn was a flawed human being in the fact that she introduced a lot of chaos, but she also loved him. And sometimes that love yielded good results, and sometimes it yielded very damaging results. And one of those times was when he asked her to leave, and she dug out a gun and held it to her head. And that, and this is right before his next big fight that she does this. What would you do if you found yourself in a relationship with someone who did something like that? Because after he shuts down the gun, she runs to the bathroom to swallow a bunch of pills.
Yeah, so I'll say this. He definitely had some anger issues. As we saw earlier when he, like, destroyed half a door and like put his breakfast down, destroyed half a door, swiped the whole thing. But I'm going to say this. That, I think more than anything, is, again, emotional maturity. Like,
or it's immaturity. Yeah.
Like, I can tell you, like, 20 plus year, definitely 20 plus, like, into my 20s, I remember once throwing an office chair across the room and hitting a wall. Like, I wasn't fully emotionally mature enough sometimes to deal with that. And let me tell you, even today at 49, I've had instances where, as you know, I've been working on a project and I get really frustrated at times. Really, really frustrated at times. And it takes me thinking about it sometimes to not punch a wall or break something. And it's not that I have this crazy desire to. It's just I've gotten older, I've gotten more mature, and I've learned that all that's really going to do is just give you another problem you're going to have to deal with later.
And the reality is for those of us or those of them who are in the presence of someone who cannot use words and their mind to express themselves and instead use physicality, it puts the rest of us on edge. I had a job in news once upon a time, and our news director would get really angry, and there was a series of holes in the walls up the staircase to the main room where they produced the newscast because he had punched it as he was getting stressed out for the newscast that evening. And being in the presence of anybody, whether it's professionally or romantic relationship, that uses physicality to express themselves is darn right frightening for the rest of us.
And, I mean, if I can draw from my past a little bit, with my first wife, very early on in our relationship, we had something where we had a bit of a squabble, if you will. And, like, I don't recall this being an at me type thing, but she picked up a pencil and she threw it across the room. That pencil got lodged in the wall. It actually stuck. And she went to pull it down, and I said, no. We're going to leave that pencil up because that pencil is just a reminder that the physicality is not worth it. You don't, like, what does that solve? It doesn't solve anything. Like, all it's going to do is end up with a pencil in the wall. And fair enough, that pencil stayed there for months and months until we actually moved out of that place. So, it is important to remember that physicality almost never solves a problem. That said, if my significant other puts a gun to their head or is trying to take pills, all physicality rules are off.
That's reactionary to a situation. I'm talking about someone who cannot express themselves. They're angry or frustrated, and they are physical with the things or the people in their environment and frighten those other people.
I'm between and betwixt on this one because, guys, I'm gonna say it. Violence is sometimes a stress outlet. The guy who punched the punching bag at the AMC theater,
The guy is you.
40 plus times over 2 nights, and felt actually kind of better about it when he did because I've been stressed as hell with everything
structured.
else.
That's structured
yes,
physicality.
Yeah. So my point is that was a fair outlet to be able to use physicality in. Those are very few and far in between to like truly like there's physicality and then there's violence. And I really hate to say, but sometimes like violence has a place, but it's got to be super structured, like a punching bag machine or something like that. And we don't normally have something like that. So, like I know you showed me something that one of your managers once gave you. It was called a damn it doll.
Yeah.
And this damn it doll is just basically like a very well reinforced stuffed doll that when you're mad, you take this doll and you just slam it and you just abuse the crap out of this doll because that's its job. And that I thought was one of the most beautiful inventions ever because it gives a healthy, violent way of getting out aggression. And like I don't like using the word violence as much, but I'm also aware of how humans truly are. And sometimes it's kind of what we need. But again, most people aren't going to do it the right way.
And ironically, that damn it doll was received from a supervisor, and the only reason I would ever need to use that damn it doll was in response to
that supervisor.
That said supervisor.
Yeah, you hated that guy. I have one more last. What would you do?
Alrighty.
What would you do if you were at a carnival and you wanted to ride a Gravitron and your other person was like, this kind of messes with my tummy?
Yeah, that was kind of funny because Mark Kerr didn't want to go on it. It's one of those things that spins round and round and the peripheral force puts you, stuck against the wall. And he was like, that'll upset my tummy, which was kind of adorable. But to answer your question, you don't do things you don't want to do because you don't have a voice to be able to advocate for yourself and what you don't want to do. As he was hemming and hawing, she also advocated for what she wants, saying, I'm going to go on the ride, hold my funnel cake. So I think, it's just a matter of everyone speaking clearly, communicating well, saying what you need, and not inferring things or tiptoeing around because of misunderstandings. He was apprehensive. They were hemming and hawing. And finally she said, I'm going to ride the ride. You hold my funnel cake. And that was good because then he rode the carousel afterwards and said, this is more my speed.
As a guy who has personally yacked buckets after coming off a Gravitron, yeah, I'm that's not. And I think sometimes people, like, masculinity can be used against guys.
Oh,
aren't you man enough to do this? Listen,
don't be a wimp.
Listen, there are some things, it's just not about masculinity. Like,
And you don't need to prove anything to anybody.
Yeah, you
F
really-
people. Who the heck cares?
and that's kind of where it goes back to being competitive with yourself. Like, be who you are, and don't try to be someone else unless it's like something that's,
You're trying to be a better version of yourself, and you're trying to make different decisions or something. But don't ever give in to peer pressure, and don't compromise on anything that you just really don't want to do.
yeah.
Especially if it's just no point. That was supposed to be enjoyment. And if one of the two parties doesn't find it enjoyable, that doesn't necessarily mean the other person caves and says, okay, well, I won't do it. I really wanted to do it. But if you don't want to, I won't. You go ride the ride. You wait for the person. You will both live. It's okay.
Yeah, it really is. And also, I can't let this episode go without mentioning Dwayne Johnson has some legitimate acting chops.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I mean, we knew he did before, but I mean, I will be shocked. Okay, I will be shocked if he doesn't get an Oscar nomination from this. I will be shocked if he wins the Oscar.
He might get a Golden Globe. I don't know. I mean, as one of, he is really good in this, and sometimes people won't let someone break the mold of who they see them to be, that they see them be an action star or something. So I would like to think he will win an award from this.
No, I don't think he'll win, but I think he'll get
or be recognized.
like,
Be recognized.
Yeah, the nomination, honestly, is the win in this case. I think because of how much he's been pigeonholed.
Yeah.
To get that nomination, then you can now say that I'm an Academy Award nominated actor.
Yeah.
And no matter what, that's with you the rest of your life.
Yeah, it was that kind of role.
And you are a serious actor. And that's,
This is his Tom Hanks moment. We, briefly discussed that as actors who start off in different genres and then ultimately move to dramatic roles. And even though he's had a wide variety of films, I think this is that shift for him to be that dramatic actor.
Yeah, and a lot of people seem this action guy, the former professional wrestler, da da da. Dude, listen, this dude is really, really smart.
Yeah.
And like from a business perspective, like he probably knew, like this is where I need to be right now if I really want to expand my horizons. My guess is he probably got turned down for one or two roles that were maybe more serious that he wanted, that he couldn't get. And because he was the producer of this movie. So he's like, well, if I can't get somebody else to sign off on me taking a serious role, I'll give one for myself and then let the public decide whether or not I'm a good enough actor.
Are you speculating?
I mean, I'm speculating, but it makes a lot of sense if you think about it.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not
I
speculating that he was
know.
the producer of it. Like he
but everything you just said is speculation.
Yes, and I said I'm guessing. I opened with I'm guessing, but it might make sense because he's a good actor, and a lot of actors.
It's been done before. Look at Matt Damon and.
I mean, you could go down in a huge laundry list of
Sylvester
people.
Stallone.
Yeah.
A lot of people writing their own ticket.
Pick really just about anyone successful. And a lot of them at some point were pigeonholed early.
Yeah. So, I mean, if you're on the fence about this film and you think, what, the film with that, fake wrestler guy or anything like that, like open up your mind to experience something different because he really did do a good job on
And you
this.
don't need to be a UFC fan, like, at all.
Oh, no. I mean, like any good sports themed movie, it's not about being a fan of that sport. It's about appreciating the journey of athletes and endurance and competition.
Yep. Final thoughts?
In the year 2000.
We hope you enjoyed our episode. Thank you for listening. And to catch all the new episodes, please subscribe. We release 2 to 3 episodes weekly, so we'll have new content regularly. Until next time.